Today on Sugar Spun Run, I'll be showing you how to make my favorite tiramisu recipe. Hey Sugar Spun Bakers, Sam here, and today I am really excited to be sharing another carefully tested, well-researched, and perfected recipe. I've gotten so many requests recently for tiramisu, so I put a lot of work into this one, getting it just right. I had my husband test it to make sure it was foolproof, and it passed the test, so I'm ready to share it with you now. Now, let's go ahead and get started. Now, you're going to need a double boiler for this recipe, so I'm just going to be using a pot, and I'm gonna have a little bit of water in that, and I'm gonna bring that to a simmer. Now, while that is simmering, we can go ahead and we can grab our egg yolks. Now, you need 6 egg yolks for this recipe, so let's go ahead and separate those. Now, you don't need the egg whites for this recipe, but don't toss them out. I recommend saving them and using them for one of my other recipes like meringue or angel food cake. I'll link to a couple in the recipe description. Okay, now we're gonna add 3/4 cup of granulated sugar in with the egg yolks, and we're gonna whisk this together until everything's nicely combined. It's gonna be a little bit thick. Now I'm going to be using this heat-proof bowl that I put the egg yolks in as my double boiler. So before measuring out my water, I made sure that the bottom of the bowl did not touch the water. That's really important. If the water's touching your bowl, it could overflow, and even worse, it could cook your eggs. So once our water is at a nice simmer, we can go ahead and take that bowl and we'll place it right on the pot. And you're gonna wanna grab a whisk, and we're just going to whisk this pretty much constantly while it cooks. Now you're looking for a couple of things here. You want the sugar in the mixture to be dissolved. You can always test that by taking a little bit between your thumb and forefinger and just feeling for any grit. And you also want this to become a little bit lightened in color, and it's gonna thicken up a little bit too before it's ready to use, just slightly thickened. This is beautiful, so we're going to carefully remove it from the double boiler. Some steam is going to escape, so make sure you protect your hands when you do that. So I'm gonna whisk this a couple more times because I wanna cool it down a little bit, and then I'm going to add my rum. So I'm not much of a rum drinker. You can use your favorite kind, but you do wanna use a dark rum. I just bought this because I like the Kraken on the bottle, so that was my reason. You can use whatever you'd like. Now I'm just gonna be adding 2 tablespoons of rum in with the eggs. Now I'm just gonna add this slowly while I'm whisking at first. And then I'm also going to add a teaspoon of vanilla extract for flavor. Okay, now let's set this aside to cool. You can even set that in the refrigerator to help speed up the process if you need to. And while that's cooling down, we can make our coffee mixture. So you're going to need 1 1/4 cups of coffee, and we're going to add 4 more tablespoons of your dark rum in with that. Now I've mixed everything together in my measuring cup. You're going to want to ultimately pour this into a shallow dish. I'm gonna use this one right here, but I'm not gonna transfer it yet because it's a little bit harder to move the coffee when it's in that dish. I like that coffee to cool down a little bit too. You don't want any of your ingredients to be too hot or things can start to melt and then you're in trouble. We're also gonna whip up some cream while everything's cooling down. So you're going to need 2 cups of heavy cream. I'm just gonna pour this into a large bowl. I'm probably gonna regret using this bowl. You wanna use a larger one because I'm gonna end up with splatter everywhere, but I'm just gonna go with it. Now, whenever you're whipping cream, ideally I recommend using an electric mixer or a stand mixer because otherwise you're gonna get a serious arm workout. So I'm gonna whip this cream for several minutes until I have soft peaks. Not going all the way to stiff peaks. I like the softer peaks, which give the tiramisu a creamier texture. So I wanna give you a peek at what soft what soft peaks look like, I'm sorry. So as you can see, the peak that forms when you pull your beaters out of the mixture, it kind of folds a little bit. It's not holding straight and stiff like stiff peaks would. Now grab yourself another bowl and you're going to also need 16 ounces of mascarpone cheese. And we're just going to briefly beat this with our electric mixer, or you could do it by hand until the mascarpone is nice and smooth. Now you always have to be careful with this cheese because if you overmix it, it can end up gritty. You don't want that. And no, I'm not gonna be cleaning these beaters between whipping the cream and beating the mascarpone because everything is going to be combined in the end anyway, so save yourself the trouble. So by now, hopefully your egg yolk mixture has cooled enough. So we're going to go ahead and grab that, and with our mixer on low speed, we're just gonna drizzle that egg mixture in with the mascarpone. Again, we don't want to overdo it, so I'll just pause and I'm going to use my spatula where I can, just get everything combined. Looks like we need the mixer just a little bit more because I see a couple of lumps. All right, now let's add our whipped cream. nice soft peaks there. And I'm just using a spatula now to fold everything together. Okay, now it's time to assemble everything. So all of your ingredients are going to come together. You just need one more thing, and that is ladyfingers. You're going to need approximately 40 ladyfingers. If you can't find them in your supermarket, you can buy them online, and I'll leave a link below for you to do that, or you can make your own. I recently shared a video on exactly how to do that, so make sure to check it out. You'll also need a 13x9 baking dish, which is where we're going to be assembling our tiramisu. Now for your coffee, remember you're going to want that in a shallow dish. And the reason for that is because it's the easiest way to dip the ladyfingers without oversaturating them. We're just going to take these and we're going to briefly, very briefly, dip each side in the coffee. And I mean super briefly. If you oversaturate this, your tiramisu could collapse or it could just be too soggy, and you don't want that either. So after you very, very briefly dip your ladyfingers, we'll just go ahead and lay those in the pan. And since I'm using homemade ladyfingers, they're not necessarily uniform, but that's fine. You're not going to be able to tell when you cut into the tiramisu. Your ladyfingers should also be nice and stale, which is a little bit counterintuitive, but I made these yesterday and I let them sit on my counter overnight to dry them out and make them nice and crispy. Every time we come in the kitchen though, Luke is asking to eat them. We taught him to sign, so he's constantly going like this and reaching for the ladyfingers, so it'll be nice to have these out of the kitchen, or out of his sight anyway. The ladyfingers aren't going to fit neatly even if you have the uniform store-bought ones, so feel free to break them as needed. All right, let's grab that mascarpone mixture and we're going to portion half of that over the ladyfingers. So I am a chocolate fiend, so I always like to put a nice light layer of cocoa powder over the mascarpone layer. Now, you only need about a tablespoon. And I'm just gonna lightly sift that over the whole entire layer. Zach gave me this teeny tiny sifter, so I'm going to try to make it work. Okay, that's not working, so let me switch that over to something a little bigger. There we go, that's a lot better. He tried. So we'll just repeat those layers now with another layer of coffee dipped ladyfingers. And then the rest of our mascarpone. And before you serve this, I do like to dust it with more cocoa powder, but if you put it in the fridge with that cocoa powder on top, it's going to kind of melt a little bit, so I like to wait until just before serving to add that final layer. Now it is super important that tiramisu chill for at least 6 hours, preferably overnight. So I'm going to cover this with plastic wrap and then off to the fridge for 6 hours. All right, so once this is done chilling, we're going to go ahead and sift it with that final layer of cocoa powder, again about another tablespoon, using the good sifter this time. And now is the moment of truth where we slice and serve. And I always get a little bit nervous about this because the first slice is hard to cut and it's even more nerve-wracking when you're on camera. And that is how you make perfect tiramisu at home. I really hope you guys enjoyed this recipe, and if you try it out, please let me know what you think. I always love hearing from you. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Those ladyfingers become so soft and cake-like sitting in the coffee and the mascarpone. That's so good.